Parents kicked me out to make room for my pregnant sister, and I had to live in my car while working 2 jobs. 6 years later they called asking for money because my sister has 4 kids. Growing up I always knew my family was very dysfunctional. No one ever really spoke to each other. My father was a lawyer, and he was mostly busy with his clients all the time, and my mother was a teacher at a private high school. It was usually just me and my sister, Sarah, at home. Sarah was one of those girls on whom every guy had a crush, and she took advantage of that. I was older than her, so naturally I always tried to make sure she was careful and she was not doing something that could get her into any trouble. But she was not someone who listened to anyone. She used to do whatever pleased her, and every time she got into any trouble, I had to bail her out. At the end of the day, my parents always blamed me for Sarah's mistake, because I am the older one and I should know better. My parents were always more focused on my younger sister than me. They really tried to hide the fact that I was not their favorite child, but it was obvious. It was not like they would treat her like a princess and treat me like trash, but they were just more inclined towards her. I mean, even when I turned 18 and got into college, they wanted me to stay with them to save up some money for the future, so I never had a reason to think that they would not be there for me if I needed them. I, 26F, am a real estate agent. I would say I am doing quite well in life. I have a great career, I am making a name for myself, I am a house owner, and I recently got engaged to my boyfriend Matt, 28M. Overall I am doing well in life. It took me a lot to reach where I am, and I had no support from my family. They were not even around. 6 years back when I was a sophomore in college, my sister was in her senior year of high school, and she had this up to no good boyfriend, and she was obsessed with him. She got pregnant with his child when she was 17, he stuck around and took accountability for his actions and he was ready to take responsibility for the child. My parents got to know about the pregnancy, and they completely lost their minds at first. Their first thought for some reason was that I should have spoken to her about being more careful. After all, she is my younger sister, and I should always look out for her. I have no clue how that was my fault, but I still did not pay enough attention to that. After a lot of fights, and me trying to convince them that it would be alright, they had no other option than to accept it. The day after Sarah told them about her pregnancy, my mother came up to me and told me that I needed to move out within a few days. I was confused and I asked her what she meant, and she said that the house was not big enough for the 4 of us, especially with Sarah's boyfriend moving in, and a baby on its way. She told me my sister needed more space, and that moving out would be a way of showing support to her. I tried to reason with my mother and ask her if I could just stay for at least a couple of more months so that I could get an apartment for rent near my college. She was completely against my offer and she asked me to move out and stay someplace else. I realized there was no point arguing with her, so I just accepted my fate. The next day I packed everything I owned, and as I was about to leave, my father stopped me to let me know that they would no longer be able to pay my college tuition because they needed that money for Sarah and the baby. I wanted to be surprised and scream at him, but I did not say anything. I just left. I went straight to my grandparents' house, hoping they would let me stay with them, but they refused to take me in. I did not have a place to go to. I had my car and I spent several nights in that car, parked somewhere near my college. I started looking for jobs immediately after leaving the house, and I had to get 2 jobs. The only good thing was that I had an amazing scholarship, so the tuition was not as high. It was almost impossible to even afford to rent a place, and on top of that, I had to save up for my college tuition and the jobs did not pay enough. There were days I did not even get to have one full meal. I lived in my car. Along with that, juggling college and work was one of the hardest things ever. Months went by, and I was still living in my car. Eventually, I saved up some money and I started living in one of those community hostels. And all this while, my parents never even called, not even to make sure that I was alive. Neither did Sarah. I called once after I heard she gave birth, and that was it. 6 years went by just like that, no contact at all. I never even heard about them from anyone. In these 6 years, I moved to a different city, and I built a life for myself, a comfortable one. I was happy, until yesterday. Right before I was going to bed, I got a call from an unknown number. I thought it must be someone trying to reach out to me about a house listing or someone looking for an agent, but it was almost 11 at night, so I thought I would ask them to call me the next day during office hours. As I picked up the call, the voice sounded very familiar. It was my mother, calling after 6 years of no contact whatsoever. For some reason I thought she called because she missed me and just wanted to talk to me. That is what she made it sound like at first, and I believed her. I was emotional. After all, I was hearing her voice after so many years. I cried and I turned into a little girl. I started telling her about everything I have accomplished, about my life. I even invited her to my wedding. I was ready to forget about the fact that they were not around for so many years. But then the next thing she said gave me a reality check. She just called me because they needed my help with Sarah and her kids. Kids, plural. She told me about my sister's situation, which is terrible. After the first child was born, She and her boyfriend got married and they started permanently living with our parents. 6 months into the marriage, they got divorced and she was already pregnant with the second child, but the father completely disappeared from her life. Then after the second child was born, she started leaving both the kids with our parents and going out to party all night, and just doing her thing. 2 years after the second child was born, she was dating this guy who got her pregnant again and they got married. Everything was going well, then Sarah cheated on her husband and she is now pregnant with the affair child. On top of that, she has no clue who the father is, and she recently got divorced again. Now, my parents want me to move back to the town I used to live in and look after my sister. I found this very amusing, so I asked her why they thought I would give up my life and career completely to move back and look after my 24-year-old sister who has wrecked her own life. Her reason made the whole thing even funnier. My parents needed me to look after their poor baby after they passed away. After everything they have put me through, after promising so much to me, they still abandoned me. I did everything on my own, I built my own life, and they were never around. And now they want me to come and cater to my train wreck of a sister? The one they abandoned me for? There is no way I would ever do that in a million years. I needed my parents and they left me to fend for myself. I clearly told my mother that there was no way I was coming back for them or Sarah, and I hung up. I could not sleep all night after that phone call. My parents were supposed to take care of me and look after me. They had some responsibilities towards me, and they fulfilled that with Sarah but not me. They only remembered me when they needed my help with my sister. They needed me to look after her when they gave up looking after me when I needed them the most. Since the phone call, I have been receiving texts from so many of my relatives saying I am entitled, and I should help my family, and family looks out for each other and other similar things like that. I do not understand where these relatives were when I was at my lowest, when I was kicked out of my house and had nowhere to go. They are supposedly my family. Why did they not look out for me when I needed help? I spoke to my fiancé and my friends about this. Most of them think I am doing the right thing, but some of my friends are suggesting that I should go and meet my so-called family because even though they were not there for me, I do not have to stoop down to their level and let them be on their own when they are in need, and if I do not show up for them it would just mean I am being a terrible person. This difference in opinion is really confusing me. I really do not know what to do. Ida for not helping my parents and my sister when they could really use my help? Update 1. It has been 2 days since my mother called, and my phone is still constantly buzzing with my relatives' texts about how I am a terrible person for denying any help to my sister. I am second guessing my decision right now. They did leave me on my own, but they are still my parents, and I do not want to abandon them. Maybe my friends are right, maybe I should not stoop down to their level. I could be the bigger person and let go of the past. I cannot lie and pretend like I do not feel bad for my sister. After all, she was my best friend for the longest time. I mean, we grew up together, we did everything together. When all of this started happening, she was just 17, she needed someone wise to guide her through life, and our parents failed her, just like they failed me. And even though the whole getting pregnant thing was her fault, she does not deserve the life she is right now. It is very unfortunate that she must go through so much at such a young age. The least I can do is look after her. Especially when I have the resources to look after her. But then something still feels so wrong. I feel conflicted. She is my little sister, they are my parents, this is a part of my responsibilities, but why should I think of them, when they never thought of me? Sarah always got everything she wanted, she was never denied anything. She made a mistake, and I had to pay for it. I was living on the street, working, and putting myself through college, while she was out having babies and partying and messing around with boys. She messed everything up and wrecked her life, and I got punished for it. I cannot change the fact that I love my sister, but my resentment and anger are bigger than any love I have towards her. So, I am genuinely conflicted, and I still do not know what to do. Update 2. Hi guys, it has been a month since my mother called, and I was debating on what I should do eventually. I decided to let it go because they were not reaching out to me anymore, so I thought why bother? But last week I got another call from the same number. I did not want to pick up the call, but I did. It was Mom. She was crying heavily and that scared me. I asked her what happened and she told me Sarah was in the hospital because she had an accident. They needed me to be there because they did not have enough money to pay for the required procedures. I did not think twice before getting into my car and driving all the way to my hometown. Within a few hours, I reached the hospital, and my parents were there. Mom was crying, and Dad was walking around trying to calm himself. I went in there and my mother was overjoyed to see me. She came running towards me and hugged me, thanking me for being there. I asked them about what happened, and apparently my sister was driving when another car that was on the wrong route hit her car, but since the airbags inflated, her condition was not as bad as it could have been. But they had to deliver the baby prematurely, and the chances of survival were low. But they assured us that Sarah would survive. I thought I would just check into a nearby hotel, but my parents insisted that I stay with them, and I am currently back in my old room. I thought maybe they turned it into a nursery or something for the kids, but it is almost exactly the way I left it 6 years back. They did not even touch the room. I got to meet my little nieces and nephew. They are very well behaved, which kind of took me by surprise for some reason. According to my 5-year-old nephew, they have heard a lot about me and they are really excited to see me. For some reason, I was sure I would dislike my sister's kids, but in the past few days, I have really come to love them. My sister is in a stable condition now, the baby is still in a critical condition, but we are hoping for the best. I went to visit Sarah, and she seemed happy to see me, but it was so hard for me to see her in that condition. Whatever I had against her just went away. All I could see was my little sister crying in pain and just wanting her child to survive. If there was anything I could have done to make her feel better, I would have, but all I could do was just sit beside her and hold her hand. I have not had a proper conversation with my parents yet. I probably should, but it just does not seem like the right time. I will wait till things are okay. Meanwhile, I need to go back home for a week. I need to talk to my manager and arrange a few things, get my things in order, and I will come back again once it is done. I will keep you guys updated if anything happens. Update 3, hey guys, so it has been a few weeks since I gave an update, and this seems like the right time to do it. So, after the last update, I went back home and I did whatever I had to. Sarah called me while I was back home and she asked me if I could bring my fiancé with me the next time I visited. She said she has missed out on a huge part of my life and she wants to make it up to me, and it would not be possible for her to travel all the way to the city I am living in to be a part of my life, so if I'm okay with it, I should bring him along. I ran this idea past him, and he was on board with it. Within a few weeks, I went back to my hometown, along with my fiancé, Matt. We were planning on staying in a hotel, but again my parents insisted we stay with them. My sister got discharged from the hospital while I was back home, but her baby is still in the hospital. She said that the baby is in a more stable condition and the chances of survival are higher than before. This time I finally sat down and spoke to my parents. They asked me to stay back and live with them again. They said it would be nice to get the family back together. I hated every word they said, but I kept quiet because of Sarah. The things they kept saying were that I made it, and they always had faith in me, and they knew I could do it. I hated them for this. They knew I could do it, so they left me alone? They had faith in me, so they did not bother to check up on me for 6 whole years? And just because I made it, they need me and my help now? Is that all I am to them? I just smiled and nodded at them. They kept talking about how I was earning so much and it would help them out so much in so many ways. And all I could think was, I am not their daughter, I am just a bank to them, just their money supplier. But again, I did not say much about this. I was here for my sister. I told my parents that it would not be possible for me to stay here, but I will keep sending them money every month. They kept joking about how they would do something and make me stay in this town, and I have no clue what they meant, but I just repeated myself and said I would not be able to stay here. I am not having the best time staying here. Every day that I spend here reminds me of the fact that I was kicked out of this house, this room, because they needed space for my sister and her baby, but they did not even touch my things. My room is as it was when I left, so why did I have to leave? They did not even use the space I left for them. I have so many questions, and I cannot ask anyone any of them. I feel a little stupid being here. I am leaving next week and I do not think I will be talking to my parents. I might talk to Sarah, I guess. I am still extremely conflicted about this whole situation. I was here for Sarah, she is alright now, and her baby is also doing alright for now, so I do not understand why I need to stay in touch with any of them anymore. Sure, I will send them the money they need, but I do not want to continue talking to them. I really wish there was an easier way to cut off ties with your family. They have put me through hell, and yet, here I am. Update 4, I came back home 2 weeks ago, and a few things happened before my return and they really messed with my head. A few days before I returned, my parents wanted to sit down with me again to have a talk. They said it was serious, so I thought alright, I could just hear them out. They said they think I should forget about whatever happened in the past and try to move on and support my family. This kind of got on my nerves. I told them I would start sending them whatever they wanted. Why do they have to keep repeating themselves? I almost screamed at them and told them I was aware of my responsibilities, and I would do whatever I needed to. To this they made a very snarky comment. They said something along the lines of me not being around for so many years and being selfish with my money at first and finally agreeing to financially support them because of an accident. I asked them what they meant, and they replied by saying that they could not trust me because I disappeared on them for 6 years, and I was not willing to support them after I became financially stable. That was the last straw. I completely lost it and started screaming at them. I abandoned them? Are they serious? They kicked me out when I was completely dependent on them when I needed them the most. Where were they when I was working day and night just to get through college when I could not even afford one meal every day? I did not disappear on them. They kicked me out. I was living in my car, and in community hostels where you do not even always get clean water to drink. They never even tried to reach out to me when I hit rock bottom. When did they try to come back into my life? When I finally made it, on my own. Now that they need someone to pay for them because they did not save up a penny and wasted everything, they remember me. I was completely losing my mind and screaming at the top of my lungs. How dare they put this blame on me? I reminded them that they promised me that I would have a place to live until I graduated college, and they promised me that I would always be able to count on them. And they chose Sarah over me, even though no one asked them to choose. My mother interrupted me and tried to make me understand that they wanted to do right by Sarah and her child. Mom said she and my father wanted to do right by their baby, but was I not their baby as well? They had nothing to say after this, so I just went out for a walk with Matt, and that calmed me down quite a bit. Once I returned, my father asked if he could talk to me privately, and that annoyed me because what more did they have to say? He promised it would not be anything like it was this afternoon, but at this point, his promise meant nothing to me. But I still went to his study and sat down with him. He seemed a little uncomfortable and upset, and he tried to begin speaking quite a few times but he kept hesitating. I was trying to be patient, but after a while, it got irritating, so I just asked him to speed up the whole hesitating thing he is going through. I think I was a bit rude because he seemed a little more upset after I said what I said. He finally managed to get out a few words. He apologized, he said he thought about what I said and he spoke to my mother about it, and he feels terrible about whatever I had to go through. He said when they got to know about Sarah's pregnancy, they were completely shaken up. They knew Sarah was out of control, but they never expected her to get pregnant at such a young age. When it all went down, they completely blocked everything out of their minds, including me, and completely focused on Sarah and the baby. After he was done speaking, I realized that as a person I can empathize with him. It was a difficult time, but as his daughter, whatever he said meant absolutely nothing because it was his fault that he blocked me out of his mind. He completely focused on one daughter, forgetting the other, and whatever he said just felt like one big excuse. I told him how I felt about whatever he said and whatever had happened, and he just accepted it because I made it clear that I could not forgive them, and it is just a lot of emotional baggage that does not just go away with one sorry. The next whole week I only spoke to Sarah and her kids. I did not say a word to my parents. And now I am back home, and I honestly do not know how to feel. My sister genuinely needs me, my parents are not getting any younger, Dad is retiring in a few years, and Mom left her job the second Sarah gave birth to her first child. I do not know. Maybe they are trying to make things better for a good reason, but there is also a high possibility that they are only trying to make things better because they need financial support. I will surely be sending them the money they need, but I am still not sure if I will visit them again. It would be really helpful if anyone reading this could give me some opinions. Update 5. It has been a month since I came back home after visiting my family, and I have had time to think everything through. My mother has called me quite a few times, and I have been in constant contact with Sarah in case she needs anything. But my father has been rather quiet since our last talk. We have spoken once or twice, but those talks were just superficial. Mom is still trying extremely hard to convince me to move back in with them, or at least move back into the same town, and every time I give her the same answer, it just seems like she cannot take no for an answer, so now I just let her speak. The problem is, even if I wanted to move back into that town, I would not be able to because my whole life is here now. I cannot just resign from my job and leave my fiancé and my friends here. To be honest, even if I could, I would not move back into that town. The only memories I have from that town are being kicked out of my house, and sleeping in my car, and always fearing the possibility of getting robbed, or something even worse happening to me. I think moving into this city was the best decision I ever made. About my parents, as I already mentioned, my mother keeps insisting that I move back, and I told her that I will not be doing that, and she thinks by that I mean I will be cutting off all ties with them and I will not support them financially. That will not be the case. I am actually a little disappointed that my mother cares more about the financial aspect than she cares about me, but I have decided that I will not keep my expectations from her anymore. I still have not thought about where my relationship with my father is going. Maybe we will just call each other occasionally and make sure we are doing all right because I do not know if I will be able to have a deeper relationship with him. I plan on continuing to stay in touch with Sarah, in case she ever needs any help with anything. I only live a couple of hours away from them, so I guess in case of any emergency, I will be able to show up for them. I honestly do not know if maintaining this relationship with them, even though it is not that much, is the right decision or not, but I do not think abandoning your parents or just letting them be on their own is the easiest thing to do. I tried my best to ignore the fact that only I could help them out, but I could not let them be on their own, while I had more than enough resources to look after them. I do not owe them anything, I know that, but at the end of the day, they did raise me and gave me everything I required, till they kicked me out of course. I have a lot of anger against them, but there is nothing I can do about it. I think I will just fulfill my responsibilities as their daughter, and as Sarah's sister, and I will not expect anything from them anymore. I guess this is the only way to preserve my peace, and if they ever decide to leave again, they can, but this time I will not be alone and I will not fall apart.